Hi everyone, this is Tanya from Flying Dog Studio. Thank you so much for joining me for part 2 of my Beatrix Potter style art. And in this video, we're going to be using the Caran Neocolor II. Let's take a look at the colors that we're going to be using. We're starting with brown, and then we have umber, and then dark olive, dark green, grass green, and yellow green, and that will be used for the leaves and stuff. So now for the flower itself, we have vermilion, russet, lime green, and a light olive. I love light olive, and yellow, golden yellow. Almost said yellow green again, but golden yellow. I will try to stop these so that you can see, but I will warn you, I do forget in the video to show you, but I'll try to remember to tell you what color I am using. So I'm starting with the golden yellow, and I'm not bearing down very hard. Just a little bit of pressure, because while it looks light on here, you're going to see how vibrant it is once we add the water. Now, I had not used these in a hot minute, so it takes me a bit to kind of orientate myself with them again. I didn't practice before I started this. I knew I wanted to layer, so what I'm doing now, and if you've watched any of my Beatrix Potter style art before, I try to age the paper, and I usually do that with some Derwent ink tints and kind of do almost kind of like a cream, just to kind of yellow the paper a little bit, and then I let that dry, and then I paint on top because I want to give it an aged look. On this one, I want you to see just how these Caran d'Ache work, so we're only using the white paper. But I am going to layer it like she did. And if you didn't catch the inking part of this, because you'll notice it's already inked, that was in part 1. And I'll link all of these below, and all of my supplies, I will link that below as well, so that you can take a look at what I'm using for this project. So what I'm wanting to do here, since this is going to be a layering project, and there are many ways, and we're going to cover a couple of ways to use these Caran d'Ache for this piece, but there are many ways to use these to color a piece. So we're starting out just like crayons, and I don't know about you, but I love a good box of crayons. Nothing like the smell of a new box of crayons. So I'm treating these like crayons, and I'm going to get just a base color. I'm taking a look at my reference photo, and by the way, the reference photo and the drawing for this piece are going to be on my blog, which I have listed below, and it will say Jonesboro Art School or Jonesboro School of Art. That's still me. That was the studio that I had for years, the teaching studio, and that was our blog that we used for class. So I have just converted it to help us out here since it was already going. Thought, why not use it for this? So it won't say Flying Dog Studio. It'll say Jonesboro School of Art, but that is us. So don't worry about clicking on the link. It is legit. So what I'm doing with these is I am just getting a good base color. I'm, like I said, taking a look at the reference, seeing what color is underneath, thinking about how I want these to layer on here, because once we put them down and activate them with water and let them dry, then that color is going to be on the paper. And we'll talk about that a little bit more once I start to activate it, exactly how I'm activating it and why I'm doing it the way I am. But that's what we're going to be doing here, just getting the base colors in this one. It's the next video, which is going to be coming out tomorrow. So in the past, when I've done videos that have parts to them, you have to do one a week, but I have worked really hard to make sure you get these back to back, just in case you want to follow along. So in tomorrow's video, you will see how we're going to come back on top and use the same colors you see over there in the palette, but mix it up just a little bit and try to match what we're seeing over in the reference. And I'll just let you decide for yourself if I did that or not. If you do try this project, let me know in the comments below. if you use the colors that I did, or if you use something else. Maybe you're not even going to use Caran, maybe you're going to use straight watercolor or colored pencils. Whatever you want to do with it, let me know. I would love to know that these reference photos are getting used. And while you're over on the blog, take a look at some of my other entries on there, because I have other reference photos from our garden this summer, and that's where this picture came from, was from our garden. My husband does have a green thumb. I have a camera on my phone, so that all works out very, very well. So we're coming down to the last little bit of coloring here, and you'll notice I'm not mixing the colors. Some of the colors are going to come together a little bit, kind of juxtaposition and overlap, but I'm not mixing my colors just yet. I'm running them side by side, but not mixing them. So we have a cup of water, and then I have 2 Winsor & Newton brushes, but spoiler alert, I'm only going to use the size 6. I also have a size 3 round there. That's just in case I need it for some of those tricky areas. And then I have a cloth. I happen to have a microfiber cloth, but you can use whatever you want. And as I said, we're starting with that size 6 round. And look how vibrant that color is. I told you it would be super vibrant. So that's why I was trying to be careful not to go too hard with it. You don't want to bear down like these are oil pastels and you need to blend them together. They're going to blend once we put the water on. So don't worry about going too thick. If you go too thick, it's actually going to build up too quickly on you, and it's going to be hard to mix your colors. So it's best to do a little bit at a time. And all of these places where I'm putting yellow, I'm going to be putting some other colors on top. So it's not going to stay just plain yellow. And I did try to use Beatrix Potter's style of inking. So some of the veins, some of the details like on the petals, while if I were doing this a different style, more realistic style, I wouldn't have inked those in. I would have allowed my colors to do all the perspective for me. But Beatrix Potter did a little bit different kind of art. And since I'm trying to emulate her, that's what we're doing here. Now the paper I'm using, and again, all that will be listed below, is a cold press paper. So you can see all the little bumps on there, and you can see that the color travels right on top of the ridges. And when I activate it, sometimes that disappears and turns into watercolor, and sometimes it leaves that mark on there. You can still see where I've colored, and I know that's on there, but I'm going to take care of that in just a few minutes. And we don't want it to stay like that, because if you leave it where it's not completely dissolved, when you come back to put colors on top that you don't really want to mix with this, you want to allow them to layer, they're going to end up mixing. So make certain that you get everything dissolved on there so that they don't mix. Instead, they're going to layer. Now, the little leaf that I just did, it had yellow in the center and it had more green around the outside. When you have areas like that, you're going to want to start in the lighter area and then move to the darker area. That way you can keep the properties of your lighter colors. You don't want to lose them. I don't want to lose any of these colors yet. I don't even want them to mix yet. I want them to be side by side. So that's what you're going to see me doing here. And I'm going to hop off for just a minute and let you have a little musical interlude, and you can watch me activate all these colors, and then I'll hop back on in just a second. All right, we're getting to the last little bit, and I realize I forgot to color in the very center of that pile of leaves there. And what's in the center was a bud that had died and was just all kind of brown in there. So I'm picking up the brown and I'm going to color that. And I'm being very careful not to touch my wet areas because I don't want to drag those in. And the whole time that I've been activating this with water, I've been careful not to drag other areas in to where I have some light stuff, because again, I want to keep these colors separate as much as possible. And when I am using my brush, I am moving in more of a circular motion. You can probably tell that the bristles are moving in a circular motion, and that is to allow me to kind of scrub that color around and activate it a bit more. And that's what I'm doing here. Like I said, going back to all of those areas where I can still see that some of that color has not dissolved, and I'm wetting my brush and I'm going back through and I'm dissolving that color. Now this piece is going to dry for a full 24 hours. You don't have to let it dry that long. If you don't want to let it dry, you can make it dry with a hair dryer. But I had some other things to do. So this is going to dry for 24 hours. And I'm going to come back the next day and put all the detail work on. So that's going to be in part 3. And I hope you will join me for that. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much for coming by. I'm so happy you're here. And all of you that follow me on this stuff, thank you so much for jumping on to see what I'm doing. I hope you will follow along. If you do, let me know, like I said, in the comments below. I will have part 3 on this. I think there's only going to be 3 parts, but if there's 4, there'll be 4. You'll know. I'll tell you in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me, guys, and I will see you in the next one.